a short introduction of our meetup group. We launched really at the start of this month, all right? And I started contacting some people, and Geoff and Claire gladly accepted to do our first meetup. All right, so we launched this in the objective to grow the Agile community in Mauritius. We are here to connect with Agilists, network, share and learn from each other. And also we are looking for volunteers to help us organize these type of meetups. Very short introduction. We may have in the future a session to explain where we want to go and what we want to achieve, but today is not about that. Let me introduce you to our two speakers, Geoff and Claire. So Claire is the VP of Engineering at moo.com, where she oversees around 50 people, both in the tech and product department. She's passionate about things which are related to product, people, and process, including remote and hybrid working. Hey, Claire. Good evening.
Hey, folks. Thanks for inviting me.
Geoff, on the other hand, is UK's leading organic agility coach. I don't know what organic means. Probably he will explain to us later. And he helps leadership teams create an empowering culture throughout the organization, one that is resilient to rapid changes we face in the business world today. All right. He is also an author, and he has written a lot of award-winning books, which are Scrum Mastery, Product Mastery, Team Mastery, and Coach. Casebook. Personally, I have read Scrum Mastery, very good book there, Geoff, and it's one of the things that I've read and which really put me in the Agile world. So, hey, Geoff, and good evening to you as well. So today we are going to talk about Work 2.0, the new normal for Agile coaching. I'm not going to say I know much about it. So without much ado, I pass over to you guys, Geoff and Claire. So go on and let us know what that means.
Hey, Sebastian. Hi there. And I suppose, first of all, I'll just say congratulations to all of you on the creation of a pretty awesome new meetup group.
Thank you.
Well, it's a beautiful part of the world that one day I hope to be visiting in person, not virtually from my shed. It's good. It is really, really good to see how Agile and Scrum and just communities in general are still continuing to grow, because, you know, I think one thing that's been really, really important over the last 12 months or so has been communities supporting each other and growing. So yeah, good for you in putting your effort into this. I know how much effort goes into organizing things like this firsthand. So good for you for doing this. And thanks for the introductions. So yeah, I'm Geoff. As I was saying to a few people before we actually started, someone spoke to my wife yesterday and said, "Oh, I hear your husband, he writes books." And she was sort of taken back. Said, well, yeah, he has written books, but that's not what he does. He's just happened to have written a few things. So yeah, most of my time is not spent writing books, I can assure you. It is doing this, what Sebastian said, organic coaching, organic leadership, organic agility. And actually you described it. Basically, it's helping organizations create a more resilient culture. So meeting them where they are and helping them just basically become a little bit more resilient, a little bit more agile over time. Claire, however, has a real job.
Don't know about that.
Claire basically makes stuff. All right, she helps people make stuff. She's the VP of Engineering at a company that I personally have used for, I would say, 10 years or so, and even got my most recent order from them just yesterday. So Moo are an online printing and design company. Really awesome company, really fun place to work. And as well as all the other things that Claire has to do in her job, she's spending a lot of time recently been thinking about, well, what's the next iteration of our working environment? Because it's going to continue to evolve, not just at her company, but elsewhere. And we're calling it Work 2.0, but depending on, I don't know, where you are, what your company's doing, it might be 3.0, 4.0, even 20.0 by now. I don't know, but you know, things have changed a lot and they're continuing to change, and I think they're going to carry on changing for a long time. And I think one thing that we probably can be certain of, regardless of where you're joining us from in the world, and I see in the chat we've got people from all over the world, is that your world of work and probably how you live will have been seriously disrupted over the last 12 or so months. And it's been a shift that it's probably unlikely to ever go back to the same again. And everybody's probably been affected slightly differently. For most of us, it's probably been a mixture of some mild inconveniences and some incredibly unsettling disruptions, possibly with the odd pleasant surprise thrown in as well. So we're going to see if we can gauge your personal experiences already over the last 12 months. We've got a Slido poll running. I say we. Claire is the technical genius amongst the two of us, so she's organised all this. So what we want to do is we want to hear a little bit from you about what you're doing differently now as a result of the shift that we've all experienced in how we work over the last 12 months. So how this works is you can scan that QR code, or you can just go to slido.com in your web browser and type in that code, and you should see either on your mobile device or your web browser this question: how has work changed for you? What are you doing differently now compared to a year ago? It's completely free form, so you can type as you would speak, and we should see what's coming in on the screen. So let's see what you're doing differently. Staying at home.
Yep, me too. Yep, getting better at facilitation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Working remotely. A lot of that. Wearing tracksuit bottoms. You can't see what I'm wearing.
I'm wearing tracksuit bottoms.
It's the classic joke, isn't it? It's the newsreader. You don't know what's going on underneath the desk, but I can assure you I'm wearing jeans. Enjoying time with my kids. More asynchronous work. We're going to talk a lot about asynchronous work later on. Trying harder to connect, whether that's connecting to the internet or not, or whether it's connecting to people, I don't know.
Having naps. I'm so with that person.
Virtual meetings. Having naps. I'm a big fan of a nap. I've been told I should stop, but I like it. No control over personal time. Yeah, that's going to be challenging. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. Making more use of Kindle books. Less sun, less sand. That's sad.
No commuting. That's a good one. Yep, I'm enjoying having no commute.
Yeah, no commute. Started freelance training, so it's hugging my dogs way more. Can't beat that, really, surely. Too much screen time. Yeah. And it's not something we can just whinge to our kids about. We're kind of guilty of that ourselves now, as much as our kids, aren't we? Saying, can you hear me? Yeah. Are you on mute? Those three in the middle: working longer hours, working remotely, remote facilitation. Those are the really popular ones, and they are going to form quite a big part of the theme of what we're going to be talking about today. Not wearing shoes. Interesting.
Or socks. I love that. No socks.
Yeah. Can't do it. Don't like it. Well, I can if I'm on holiday. Not at work. I've always got shoes. Okay, cooking more, lots of webinars. No commute, less commute, lots of meetings. Sleeping later. More control over our free time. Cool. Thank you. Thank you for that. We're going to have another Slido poll later on. So we've proven that we can make it work. We've proven that there are people out there.
Yeah, we are interacting and responding with each other, which is great. So yeah, some really interesting insights there, isn't there? You know, lots of different things cropping up, and showing that things have changed for us all. So I thought I'd kick off the sort of presentation part of this session with a quote. It's always good to do that. This one from the New York Times, which just goes to show that this community is not alone. Many others have had to adapt as well. We might all not necessarily be in the same boat, but we're certainly experiencing the same storm. And the vast majority of people don't want to go back to what we had before. The majority of the comments were coming through there were positive, actually. There's pros and cons to this, and lots of people, although we want to get out of the pandemic and out of lockdowns and the like, we don't want everything to go back to the way it was before. So I can see some real change happening over the next decade. We're going to see companies adapting and making the switch from being fully in the office to hybrid or semi-remote, and maybe even fully remote. Because people just don't want to go back to what it was before. We've all seen the benefits of doing things in a different way, and we've had our eyes open to the possibilities. So people are going to want to make choices based on their own needs, and demand a level of flexibility, to be perfectly honest. And the companies that can offer that flexible approach are going to be the ones that are going to attract the best talent, and in turn they will thrive. So Geoff and I are going to spend the next, 10-15 minutes talking through some 8 predictions, hopefully to provoke some thought and get your minds whirring a little bit, and then we'll come back to a bit more discussion and question at the end of this. So I shall kick off, and Geoff and I are going to talk through our 8 predictions of next. All right, I've just said that. So yeah, here are our predictions on how it's all going to work. So the first one, company clubhouses. So, most of our companies probably had reasonable offices in the past. They might have been big or they might have been small. Moose certainly had a very grand office in the middle of London. It could accommodate 250, 300 people. But I think going forward, as we start working in a different way, that we're going to see much smaller offices and complexes where there are more collaboration. So you have people that are going into the office 1 or 2 days a week. And it will make these smaller club-like offices more vibrant. It'll be much more about social connection. So I'm envisaging these to be more like resorts. So you'll have employees popping in once or twice a week, and it'll all be about collaboration. Rather than, you won't be going into the office to sit there with your headphones on to do your work. You're going to be going in to collaborate with your colleagues. And these spaces are going to be outstanding. They'll be providing the best employee experiences. They'll have great remote working facilities, awesome video conferencing facilities, and there'll be things going on in and around in the morning and the evening as well. Encouraging people to come in and use that space for things beyond work as well. So encouraging moments of planned serendipity. So what might that look like? I think more business lounge rather than Google Campus, but yeah, something more like this type of space rather than lots and lots of offices, lots of people crammed in on banks and banks of desks. So I can see spaces being split between collaborative working / meeting rooms, with some really brilliant technology and logistics to make that in-person experience amazing. If you're going to go into the office to collaborate with someone, you'll have everything that you need at your fingertips to do so. Be that unlimited supplies of post-it notes and Sharpies, or high quality video conferencing facilities for you to engage with people. So the working lounges will replace, or I think working lounges will replace rows and rows and banks of desks. I don't think we will go into the office anymore and see that type of environment where you walk in and there are tons and tons of desks. I think it will be more touchdown areas, hot desking, business lounges, so you can sit down and talk with someone for shorter periods of time before you're up and off again. And of course, people will want to do some work in the office as well. I think there will be dedicated quieter zones for people to do that, and them being a much more smaller proportion than they are today. And yeah, I can envisage a much bigger investment in areas such as company all hands. Again, putting investment into technology and immersive experiences. So you're building like a cinema-like experience or a restaurant-like experience. You might even have food and drink available. And these are spaces that are going to be big enough to accommodate a whole company to come into the office if required, which also makes them quite flexible spaces to be used for other purposes as well. If you want to have yoga classes in the morning or movie nights in the evening, training, that there is these spaces can be flexible for that as well, which means that these will become social hubs, not just for employees but other visitors as well. It might start becoming normal to be bringing your family to work rather than just working from home. So that's my first prediction: smaller club-like spaces. So my second one is asynchronous working. And this is maybe not a big surprise, but I really do think async is the future. If we're only going to be in the office a couple of days a week, then what's going to change the rest of the time? Asynchronous working, a way where you're communicating with people without expecting an immediate response, is going to be key. And I really think it's one of the most underrated and important factors in team productivity in remote and hybrid teams. As we've gone through the pandemic, many companies have just tried to replicate what they do in the office whilst working from home. And let's face it, for many companies that was actually a big step. But we're going to have to go beyond that if we want to get better. Large amounts of real-time communications via video call can be draining, and it's not really required in reality. There's lots of other ways for us to communicate if we put a bit more thought into it. So I think we do need to put more thought and effort in how teams communicate and work in an asynchronous manner. This is really going to be a game changer, and I think we're going to see a burst of new tools emerging to support us doing this. There'll be way more things available than Slido and Zoom. I don't even know what they will be yet, but there's going to be tons of them for us to assess, investigate, try out, test out at meetups, and experiment and learn and fail. And it means that leaders, managers, and coaches in organisations are going to have to sort of keep up with the learning curve and learn all these new techniques to support their teams. So here's just to sort of put that into practice a little bit. Here's a communications pyramid, and I'm actually in the process of building one of these for Moo. But this one's from a company called Doist, where they've modelled out the different tools that they're using for different asynchronous and synchronous communications. So I think every company is going to need to put some thought into which method is most important for which type of work, and provide guidance to employees on tooling and the best methods to do it. I think over time, as people get more accustomed to these methods, the volume of synchronous work will decline anyway. As people get more comfortable with do things asynchronously, they'll see the benefit of the flexibility of doing things in an async manner. And I think leaders or coaches, managers that are struggling to do this are going to find this really, really hard. It'll be a real change for some people, but in reality, I think these pyramids need to be moving more, to be doing as much as we can in a synchronous manner. So related but slightly different is narrative building. So I've been trying to do some more asynchronous communications in my work already, and trying to do more in the written format and sending pre-reads out and the like. And I've realised that the tone in my written communications can come across a bit cynical and negative sometimes, as my boss could tell you. So it's a real skill being able to tell a story, and standing up or speaking up across verbally is one thing, but doing it asynchronously via audio or the written format is something completely different again. So when everyone isn't in the office the whole time, companies are going to have to search for better ways to communicate more effectively. And that storytelling is going to be absolutely vital, be it in the written or the verbal format, in order to share company vision and ensure everyone's heading in the same direction. That's hard enough to do when we're all in the office, and it'll be even harder working in a remote and hybrid way. But it's vital to make sure everyone's being kept in the loop on what's going on. So I think the most successful leaders and team members will be great writers, and they'll be able to do it concisely. They'll be able to capture their logic in the written format well, so others can consume and contribute to that in an asynchronous manner. I think tools that will enable others to do this are going to explode. There'll be lots of different ways to help us get better at this. mean, another sort of method is podcasts. Here's an example from Trader Joe's. Text-based and video-based can cause a lot of stress. Information overload. So I think we'll need to think about using a different mix of channels and different methods. So something like an internal company podcast could be a way to do that. And Trader Joe's have a really popular and effective one there as an example. But I also think things like async audio or short video clips will become really popular. Clubhouse as an example of async has already been popularised, and I've started trying to use Loom a little bit, and with my long-winded pre-read, sending a 30 to 60-minute video clip to convey the sentiment of what I'm trying to get across, so people can understand it whilst they're reading it asynchronously. So narrative building and storytelling is going to be really, really important. Right, now I'm going to hand over to Geoff to talk to you a little bit more about outcomes and outputs.
Yeah, cool. So one of the things that I've really noticed since the pandemic started is that I've seen the difference between the companies that really took Agile seriously and those that didn't, because it's really forced companies to accept and acknowledge something that a lot of us have been pushing for a long time. And the companies that really did get the fact that it's not about how long you work, but what comes out of it, they've actually really thrived in the pandemic because they've already built trusting relationships with autonomous people and autonomous teams. The organizations that perhaps were paying lip service to it, they've had to play real catch up or revert back to real micromanagement. And in the knowledge economy, the complex environment that most of us are operating in, simply just working 8 hours doesn't guarantee success. Doing something for longer doesn't correlate with higher output. And this has really, really magnified that for many organizations. I think that's a good thing. And so because of this, hopefully, more companies are realizing that more employees need to have greater control of how they do their work. And so the best workers, they're going to be attracted to the organizations that really do trust their people, that really do let them design their workday to be most effective. And they're going to focus on what they produce, not on how long they're working or how many lines of code they're creating. It doesn't matter when they do it, how they do it, they just do it. They don't need to worry about padding out their timesheets. And so you're probably going to see a lot more focus on, there'll probably be better things than this in the future, but things like OKRs and CFRs, things like that, they're going to be focused on trying to support people who are focusing on outcomes rather than output. And that's really important because these stats here are taken from the UK, but I don't think they're too unrepresentative of the world. We spend a lot of our time at work, and we all need a better way to manage that. So if we've got much more freedom to choose how we're going to do our work, and we don't have to worry about coming into an office from 9 till 5 simply because that's how things have always been done in the industrialized world, then we can start thinking about our work as one big value stream. We can almost do a value stream mapping exercise on our working day, our working week, and start thinking, well, how much of our time is actually value add? How much of it is metaphorically banging our head against the wall, or overhead, or waste, or frustration? And you think of a lot of the overtime that we do. So you can see 204 days overtime. A lot of that historically is because we're not very good at getting to outcomes. And our major compensation is extra output. That's all we can do. We'll just work longer. We'll try and catch up or prove that we work really hard. And that has really, I think we saw this in some of the comments in the Slido poll, that's really only got worse in the last 12 months. It's been harder to stop work. And when we're unsure about whether we're hitting our goals, or we're unsure about what people are thinking of us, whether they suspect we're slacking, it's much easier to just log on again and do a little bit more, because we've got all the stuff here, it's there, but the boundaries are so blurred. And that has, for many of us, led to a decline in our health and well-being. Now, well-being is sort of hot topic at the moment, and rightly so, because it's not all about the work. The good news is, and again, this came out in the Slido poll, but we've got less commuting time. So we're not spending 2 hours, 3 hours a day on the train or commuting to work. So we've got more flexibility in how we work, which should mean that we've got more time for health and well-being. And I personally know people who are going out for a run in the middle of the day, or they are being there for childcare. Sometimes we've had to, because we've been homeschooling, so it obviously hasn't been truly remote or home working, but we've been integrating our work and our lives rather than trying to balance them. Normally you'd hear about work-life balance. This is a little bit more about work-life integration, if you like. How can we build our working life around our personal life? And I think companies, we're starting to see that. We're starting to see them recognize that, not just from a well-being perspective, but seeing the opportunities they've got. So we're seeing different kinds of benefits packages, for example, to match the perks that our new lifestyle is giving us. So we don't need to worry about some of the previous things that would be quite attractive to us. We're seeing things like mandatory breaks, days off, extra, not public holidays, but private holidays, to make sure that we are striking a pretty good energy balance and make sure that we're not burning out, that we're not blurring those boundaries. We're seeing organizations turn off email servers between certain times, having sort of blackouts for periods, so that people aren't able to just go on and do emails in the middle of the night. I think we're probably going to see more of that kind of stuff, sort of flexible mix and match benefits, things like subscriptions to Headspace and I don't know, Disney Plus, or health food subscriptions, things like that. And instead of your cycle to work subsidies, you're probably going to get cycle at home subsidies. I've seen organizations that are providing Peloton subscriptions and the like to enable people to work and live healthier and more mindfully. I haven't yet got it. You can't see underneath my desk, but someone I know who has had for a while a mini treadmill underneath their desk. So they're sort of in their meetings and they're walking, they're getting their 10,000 steps in a day on their treadmill. I quite like the idea of that. I know people who've got their sort of indoor, I can't remember the name of it, basically an indoor exercise bike, and they're cycling at a relatively pedestrian pace, but they're still exercising while they're in meetings. They're a little bit wobbly, but they're integrating things, which I think you're going to see more of. The other thing I think you're going to see more of is changes in where we live and how we live. Now, my daughter is currently trying, bless her, to finish her A-level exams, and these are the exams that would get her into university if she wants to go to university. I really feel for her, because not only is she turned 18 during the pandemic, which you can't get back again, she's trying to navigate this really stressful time of these really important exams through a massive amount of upheaval and uncertainty, where she's been sometimes trying to study at home with an 18-month-old toddler running around creating havoc, and her brother hogging the bandwidth with playing Fortnite, right? But she's also thinking about, well, where am I going to live? She's going to be leaving home, so am I going to be moving to a city where that's where all the jobs are? But it's so different. We could be potentially about to see the biggest urban-rural shift for over a generation. Okay, this could be absolutely huge. It might not be, but it could be. There's already been a greater shift towards the local and away from the regional and the global. I think it's probably going to increase even more, because people are going to reclaim that commute time and they won't want to give that up again. They're going to connect more with the people and the environment around them. It's only really been through this pandemic time that I've really spoken to the people who live near me, because I've been here more. And at the moment, not everybody lives somewhere with a spare room that they can use as an office, right? They didn't buy their house thinking I'm going to be working from home more. And so equally, a lot of people haven't got their own garden, green space, you know? So I think there's going to see more people move out of those big cities towards the suburbs, the small cities, the villages. It's a lower cost of living at the moment, although if the demand is higher in those places, it won't last that way. But a higher quality of life, you know, properties with a garden and a spare room. So we're probably going to see some more small cities emerge. And because of that, we're going to see infrastructure investment. So faster internet, better schools, because more people are going to be moving there. Myself, I live in a town, not a city, over 100 miles away from London. We're having 2 or 3 new schools being built right now. We're having our infrastructure upgraded simply because we're having a new cyber hub built here, which would typically have been built somewhere closer, say, to London, like Reading or something like that. But it's being built in a little town called Cheltenham, 100 miles away from London. And we've had this neighbourhood plan come through recently, which is the result of the collaboration between the people behind this cyber park and the local neighbourhoods, talking about how they're going to create this new village, this neighbourhood plan, this park that's going to accommodate more interesting and new and futuristic working, but also benefit the local community with sort of, as you can see on there, public art and different traffic and sports and leisure and play. And there's going to be a lot more of that, right? I even know of a few people who've sold their houses, bought an RV, and turned it into their portable home office. And they're taking this opportunity to be a truly flexible worker, right? So I don't think that that's going to be really rare. I think that's going to become more common. You're probably even going to see little temporary workspace campuses for things like, you know, maybe RVs or something like that springing up. So, yeah, traveling the world, traveling the area, and working wherever we are. So those are some of my predictions.
Yeah, leads me nicely onto the last couple. So, you know, if we've started, you know, getting smaller, you go from big cities into little cities and local areas, and maybe even an RV. Let's zoom it back out again. You know, I think there will also be, you know, this will make the workforce more fluid in general. You're going to have other people that want to explore the whole world. So I expect to see countries offering remote working visas, be that on a full or remote time, part-time basis, you know, to attract people to the local area and boost their economy. You know, this is already happening. You know, I had a quick Google this morning, and I found 16 different countries already doing this. You know, from the Caribbean to Croatia. Don't know if Mauritius is offering one yet. Maybe in the future. Who knows? But I think companies
the chat's saying they are, and you get a free vaccine when you do.
Yeah, there we go. I shall be checking it out once we finish this. But yeah, I can see this happening more and more. You know, the workforces are more fluid. You know, people are looking for different ways to build communities and boost their local economies. And yeah, all of us are realising we're a little bit less tethered to a space. And you know, not everybody's going to want to up sticks and move and you know, live in an RV or whatever. But having some flexibility is a huge perk. And I think companies that can offer these types of benefits for, you know, digital nomads that have less ties to a single area, you know, it's a huge opportunity. You know, and this doesn't necessarily mean going off and traveling the world all year round. You know, it might be 6 or 8 weeks over the summer, or you're going off for the winter. And you know, I think, you know, I've taken this a stage further. You know, I'm a parent myself, so I might not be able to take advantage of some of these things. You know, I've still got a growing family, but, you know, but I'd love to see you know, the world in general start to think about how we could synchronise our education, for example, that would help make life easier for families to be more fluid in these experiences as well. You know, like kids growing up and being able to experience different cultures and different environments is an amazing opportunity. So yeah, that's maybe a longer term prediction, but it's one that I would love to see. So yeah, I see companies creating lots of work from almost anywhere policies. They may give guidance on when people must be available. For example, you might want to say, between 2 and 6 GMT, you need to be online in order to collaborate with your colleagues and your peers. But outside of that, it doesn't matter. And we're not going to insist on a specific location either. All you need is some IT and a stable internet connection at the end of the day. And as long as you're clear on what your outcomes are, how you go about doing it, and where you go about doing it, to be honest, is up to you. So rather than this being a sort of fully remote, because I think there are plenty of companies that are not plenty, but there are some companies already offering fully remote. I think companies that are thinking more about hybrid or semi-remote may Moo's considering a concept called hall pass, which would be 2, maybe 3 months a year. I haven't quite figured out the policy, to be honest. But if you've been with the company for a certain amount of time, then you unlock that benefit, and for 2 or 3 months of a year, you can be more flexible and go work somewhere warm, and maybe go to Mauritius for the winter or something like that. That might be my aim for this year. So yeah, digital nomad visas. And yeah, I mean, from all of this, sort of blew this up, all this crazy thinking. But yeah, new roles are gonna emerge. This is gonna require lots of different ways of working, and companies are going to need to dedicate roles to own the remote and hybrid working experience for their employees. With much more emphasis on this. There's going to need to be people dedicated to doing it. Creating these models and coming up with these ideas in the first place is hard work, and someone's got to think about how to do it. I mean, how many people are working from home right now, not quite sure what their company is going to do in 1 or a couple of months' time when things start locking down, unlocking. Sorry, but the pandemic's easing down. There's a lot of thinking to be done around how we bring people back to work, not just in a safe manner, but in a way that taking advantage of the opportunity. And then there's doing it one-off is just a start, isn't it? We'll have incremental improvements. We'll have to sustain it. We'll have to improve it. It's going to all be around these internal communities, regardless of where the people are. So building a great company culture in a hybrid and remote environment isn't going to happen by itself. There are going to need to be people there to nurture it and make sure it happens. And I don't know about any of you, maybe you can chuck in the chat if any of you have seen any job titles out there of companies advertising roles like this. But I've started to see a few. And they tend to be HR, sort of people management orientated, but I've seen job titles such as community builder, communications helper, facilitator, well-being coaches. I see things like this appearing already. Sorry, I can't see the chat to see if any of us have written anything, but I'll go back and look in a minute.
Yeah, but I'll keep you updated. Yeah,
keep it going. Yeah, cool. But like the whole topic of this talk was, what does this mean for Agile coaching? And I'm sure all of us are looking forward to the day where we can go back into the office and run a workshop where we can throw up post-it notes on the wall, and everybody being engaged and swarming around a whiteboard. But it's more likely that these things are going to happen maybe once a week or once a month or once a quarter. But we'll have to think of different ways to do it. But the thing that I wanted to highlight and get us thinking about for the last part of this discussion is that the Agile coaching competences are very, very relevant to all the things that I've just described. Good Agile coaches should have strong facilitation skills. Hopefully we're getting upskilled and figuring out how to run things remotely. We can teach people how to do that. It doesn't always have to be the Agile coach that does something. We can teach and mentor other people and how to do it. And that will be difficult for some people. They might not like adapting to it. They might not think they can leave someone to do their outcomes by themselves and might want to micromanage them. That's going to require some professional coaching for some folks to help them through that. And all of the masteries as well are very, very, very relevant here as well. So, Geoff was joking earlier about my technical mastery. I don't know if I would call myself a technical master in anything nowadays, but if I can get a Zoom call working over Slido, then I'm doing all right, I guess. But like that is the type of thing that's going to become quite important. Just knowing how to make these things work and it be seamless, and being able to have a backup plan in case it goes wrong. The business mastery angle is even more important. We're starting to thinking about outcomes over outputs. Some of the product mastery that we might have some expertise in could come in useful. Read one of Geoff's other books if you're not familiar with that. Boom, nice. And I mean, arguably most important is the transformation mastery. Any of us that have started doing more training or working outside of technology, engineering, product teams, and starting to work across a whole organisation, being a change catalyst and a change agent across an organisation and helping them think differently about things is absolutely vital and really important in this world. So I've talked about everything there, bar the Agile Lean practitioner. That doesn't mean that it's not relevant for. So some of the concepts and principles from the manifesto embrace everything that I've just described. So you might not be applying it to a Scrum framework or working with software engineering teams, but those practices and principles in the manifesto are just as important. So yeah, I mean, if we think about new roles emerging, I'm really surprised that we're not seeing industry calling upon our community to help more, to be perfectly honest. I'm surprised that we're not seeing more adverts for Agile coaches to go and help with some of these problems. So I think us as a community have a job to show ourselves off and demonstrate and explain to people the skills that we have. And you'll be that inside your own organisation, so you can help with things. Or yes, as a whole community, I'd love to see us all just shouting about these competencies that we've got and reminding the whole world that we're here to help. Because by and large, we're all pretty empathetic people. I want to help folks at the end of the day, don't we? Right, let's summarise that up a little bit. So we've talked about 8 different things: company clubhouses, so big offices getting smaller and being more collaborative. Asynchronous working, so there have been lots of different ways of working beyond doing things in a instant manner like video calls like now. Getting much better at our storytelling and doing it in ways such as a written format or maybe async audio. Really thinking about how we work for outcomes, and explaining to people what the goal is and giving them the freedom to go off and do it whenever they want, which will help all of our health and well-being. Being able to have much more flexibility and integrating our work and our lives together is going to be awesome. And companies will start thinking about how they can adapt their benefits packages to do so. We might all start thinking about moving or getting more engaged in our local community and thinking about what's happening in our immediate surroundings. Or maybe we want to start traveling the world a little bit more, be that on a full-time or a part-time basis, maybe taking advantages of schemes such as Mauritius and go and see different parts of the world. And yeah, new roles are going to emerge, but maybe Agile coaches can fill some of them. So I think I'm going to pass back to Geoff now to start hearing a bit more from you guys on all of this.
Well, yeah, we want you to start telling us what you think might happen now, what you think you might be interested in doing, what you think other Agile coaches have to offer and other change agents have to offer in this space. So we're going back to our Slido poll, and when you log on now, when you scan the QR code or you go to the same page, with that same code, you should see a new question. And that question should say, how could your role adapt to this type of environment? So think about how you might be able to proactively evolve your role, how your organization might want you or need you to evolve your role, or perhaps the community around you might want you to evolve your role. How can you and your skill set and your mindset help? See what comes up. Bring some more life coaching in. So we had another comment from Anna Linda in the comment, feels half your job is already well-being coaching. There is an I hear a lot of people saying, I feel like a little bit of a psychiatrist or a bit of a therapist for my team at the moment. There is a lot from a leadership perspective here, whether it's team leadership or organizational leadership, in terms of making sure that our people are okay. Learn and apply more about mindfulness. Yeah, this sort of self-management, self-regulation, self-awareness, emotional management, invest in being a better storyteller. We have lots of stories to tell. So we need to practice telling them. Building more human workplaces, contribute in having a more positive work environment in the workplace. Nomad mindset. Maybe define what that is for you. Trusting the team, facilitating social occasions. It's something that can be done. You know, we've had stand-up comedians and singer-songwriters over Zoom, all sorts of social occasions, playing games over Zoom, and, watching Netflix party mode and things like that. Connecting people with their needs, yes, find out what their needs are, what needs are lacking that might be causing them to struggle. Meet the needs, free people up. Creating psychologically safe environment. Yeah, we need to feel comfortable to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that this situation is giving us. That involves trust, and it involves trusting ourselves, and also a little bit of self-discipline as well. So psychologically safe environment, challenging the non-value add work. You know, what could we strip out of what we're doing and focus on our outcomes instead? Facilitation skills, helping people to avoid burnout, listen to them first, creating an environment where people would love to come to work. I think that's got to be the first thing, isn't it? Create an environment where we want to come back, where we want to get better, where we want to keep going. And a lot of that will come from empathy, not looking for personal gain. Attention to neurodiversity, yeah, in the remote context, absolutely. Good. What's that? Canva, a big digital firm in Australia, has no agile coaches, but has an entire internal life coaching practice to support staff. Seems they're well ahead of the wellness curve. Good for them. I'm a big fan of Canva as well. I'm a personal user. My daughter, again, bring my daughter into this, I should probably tell her actually. She was what do they call her? A mindfulness mental first aid coach, I think it was. So a lot of the students were given training in mental.
Aiuto mamma.
Hey folks,
Are
can
you
you
sure? Huh?
Yeah, so we have someone.
There we go.
grabbed it?
Yeah.
I wonder if breaking down how we traditionally think about work will lead to more people actually questioning the value of work and then designing lives that require less work. I think you might be onto something there, at least. That definitely is certainly a conversation worth having. Cool. Mentoring and coaching executives to help them adapt. Active listening. So yeah, there's a lot more of these people skills, aren't there? What would typically, in the old days, perhaps be referred to as soft skills, but increasingly important to increase that sense of connection and support of one another. And this, I think, I've been called lots of things in my life, but I'm generally a believer that if we're okay, then we will do good things. So if I'm seeing dysfunctional behavior or disruptive behavior, that is generally a sign of someone's fundamental needs not being met. And if I can help those needs be met, then people will naturally want to be successful. They'll want to thrive. They'll want to add value. So good. All right, loads and loads of ideas. I think we can make these available afterwards. Again, I'll be relying on my technical genius, that is Claire. But we want you to have a little bit more of a focused discussion. So what we're going to do is we're going to put you into some small breakout rooms with other people. And we want you to have a bit of a discussion about what you've heard, but also what your experiences are. Okay, these are just mine and Claire's predictions. You've probably seen other things. We've seen a lot of things in the chat coming up here. And then if you can, add the themes into the Slido poll so that we can see everything come back. And we'll consolidate before we have a little bit of Q&A. So we've got.
Cool. I'm going to break you out into small groups for about Have we got time? We've got about 10 minutes, Geoff.
Let's go for 8.
Go for it. So putting my apparent technical genius to the test now. How many
We
folks
are
we've got
28 for now. Yeah,
here? Yeah.
maybe that.
Right. So I'm
Quick
going to create 6 rooms.
Is there a new poll that's going to be live, or?
No, be the same one.
There's a new question you can type.
Yeah. Once I've broke you out to breakup rooms, I'll share my screen again so you can add to the same thing. Right, so I'm gonna click create now, so it'll automatically send you off into rooms of about 4 or 5 participants. We'll let you discuss for about 8 minutes and share some of your thoughts and ideas, and add them to the themes before we come back in. Right, and hopefully this will work, and I'll see you all in 8 minutes. Automatically sign. Open all rooms. Oh, it's not working. There we go. Hey, how you doing?
Good on you. I'm sorry if I just wasn't focusing when you were explaining this, but
That's okay.
are we supposed to be typing stuff into the Q&A?
I mean, you don't have to. It's more about just having a discussion by yourselves around what.
Where to type? That's all.
All right,
Okay,
sure. Let me.
in the Q&A. Okay, no worries.
Yes. So have a discussion amongst yourselves around what you heard, and if you want to share anything back in the same, and so it's the same poll. If you look in the chat, there's a link there. Or I'll make sure there is if there isn't. But you don't have to record it. It's more about you having a discussion. But
Cool.
good shout. I shall
Let
add
me
a
go
link
back.
to this poll in case
Cool.
people are
All good.
lost it. Share. Hey, Geoff.
Yeah. I didn't mind being in the breakout room, but basically they just wanted to ask me questions. They weren't doing the exercise.
Yeah, so I've just sent out the if I give folks a chance to chat, and I've just sent them the link. So, everyone's gone off phone. And one person came back and went back out again. So, and we only had one. We only lost one person when we went into breakout rooms, which is pretty good. I've done this before. You lose half the audience. So I don't want to speak to each other.
So they're putting it in the Q&A.
So it's the same one as we had. The same one as we had before.
I didn't have it open because I was.
Yeah, it's all right. So I've added it. I've broadcasted. I've put it in the link. I think it's essential. I mean, we got quite a lot even before this discussion, to be honest. Have we got until past?
Honestly, don't know.
No, sorry. I'm just wondering whether we should ask for a bit of playback when they come back or not. I mean, there's 6 groups.
You probably won't get much.
I don't think we'll get much more.
It's,
I might just open the Slido poll back up again, and then we'll just summarise up the themes and the themes in there.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so what's coming through?
So let me get back to present with Slido. Yeah, so there's nothing's been added since we. Yeah, I think if we ask folks to sort of jump, there's too many people to ask people to just jump in and share from the groups.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing people adding into the Q&A, it might be that they, because when I went to it, the poll wasn't open.
Which Q&A in Zoom?
Hey, you're back.
Yeah. What time do you want us to stop?
Do you have more sessions or for Q&A?
No, just when we come back, we were just going to summarize what we saw and
Yeah,
then have a little bit of Q&A.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's good.
How long do you want to give people for Q&A? 10 minutes?
Yeah, we said 10 minutes. Yeah.
Cool. How do you want to handle that? Do you want to do that through the chat window in the Slido? Or how do you want?
We didn't prepare a slide, but you already have one where there's a question we can use, or?
Yeah, I can't add any. I can't add any more.
No worries.
Okay, we can ask them.
That's all right. We can, when they come back, we'll just verbally summarise, and then I'll stop sharing my screen, and then I can just hand it back to you.
So you could either invite them to do the reaction of raise your hand in
yeah, we can do that.
Or just get them to type into the chat window, whichever they're more comfortable with.
Yeah. So I'll ask folks to come back. We'll just I'll share my screen there's nothing else has actually been added to that poll, so it's probably just a verbal summary, Geoff, and then we'll hand over for Q&A.
Cool.
But I'll get myself set up before I call everybody back.
So a couple of us were typing in the Q&A because for some reason the poll did not appear live.
Yeah, we too.
So you know,
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, we added in the Q&A.
Random things that are not actually questions.
No worries.
It's fine.
Good stuff. Good improvising.
Yeah, it's captured somewhere. Themes. It's not working live now. I know, I'll just ask everyone to come back.
Yeah.
Harold, I thought you were going to have a Slothielda as a background.
I'm conforming and trying not to
Oh.
miss today. I don't want
Hey, Annalyn, how are you?
Hey, Scott, good in yourself.
Julio.
Okay, welcome back. Is everybody back? No, not everybody, but
It was, yeah, it'll automatically close in a few more seconds.
okay.
I think if you left around 9, I mean, Mercer's time 9. Yeah.
There's only 8 seconds
Yeah.
left and they're all going to automatically close. 3, 2, 1, and hopefully everyone's back in the room. Right, the rooms are all closed now, so you can probably start summarising up, Geoff.
Cool. So yeah, we saw a few people adding things into the Q&A because the poll wasn't open. That's cool. So they've got things like not doing overtime, helping coaching our executives around outputs and outcomes, that conversation, trying out new tools to help people work a little bit more mindfully, bring more mindfulness in, and basically learning new skills as well as using the skills that we have. So good. Thank you for that. Hopefully you had the chance to share some ideas with some other people. What we're going to do is we've just got about 10 minutes left. I know we're running a little bit over, but we've got 10 minutes left for some freeform Q&A. So either use the reactions button and raise your hand, or just type it into the chat window, whichever you're more comfortable with. If there are any questions.
So peeps, if you have any question, just raise your hands and we'll see. And then just ask.
Or type it in the chat if that's easier.
Or put in the chat, yeah, as well.
And Geoff's going to take all the hard questions.
Harold.
So I'll start with like one question that when you started with that clubhouse picture, that looks really cool. Are you seeing companies that already are moving to that model?
Do you want me to take this one, Geoff? Yeah. So that's actually an image from one of the spaces that my company's looking at. So yeah, it's a stock image, but from a live property in Camden in North London. So yeah, it's one of the spaces that we are considering. Not shortlisted or anything, but yeah, there's lots and lots of different properties like that out in the market that are like more a quarter of the size of our existing office, but could accommodate a much more collaborative type of space at a fraction of the cost as well.
Yeah, and I would say I'd echo that. A few of the companies that I've been working with over the last few years have definitely stopped the leases on some of their big office buildings that just aren't geared up for the more collaborative working that they're planning on doing in the future. And basically, the risk of potentially repeating what Claire said earlier on, but I think it's a really important point, is that we're probably not going to go back to being in the office all the time. And so when we are there, it's going to be really focused on the more collaborative type of work that you can't or won't be doing more remotely. So it's the real clever, creative, collaborative, innovative, noisy, messy type of work. And really you want the spaces for that. So we're looking at those types of places. And the good news is when you're moving away from those big cities where space is at such a premium, you can be a little bit more spread out. You can have those a little bit more funky or quirky type buildings that will enable that kind of creative thinking as well as give you the space to do it. So yes, in short, I am seeing that.
Cool, thank you.
Good question, thank you very much. We'll give it a couple more seconds, but we don't want to make people come up with a question if they haven't got any. That's just not very kind, is it? All right, cool. Well, our contact details, I think, are on these slides. If not, we're pretty easy to track down, unfortunately. So if you have got any questions, feel free to reach out at a later point in time. But let's hand back to Danusha, who can.
Yes, thank you, Claire and Geoff. It was very nice to have you. All the late in Mauritius, we had for our first meetup, it was a nice participation. So we came around 35 at some point. So that was good. And it's a very interesting topic. I think it reached out to a lot of us. I'm already on the meetup, so it's our first inaugural, and getting some messages, so I'm sure to send it across to you for those who couldn't stay a bit longer. But thanks a lot, and it was a very pleasure. And maybe next year when we'll be able to travel, you can come to Mauritius for next event. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks a lot, Tips.
Take care.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
See you
Take
later.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.